Obamacare, the train wreck continues. I've been for this thing. I believe that everyone can and should have health care, but the website not working well, and even the libs are turning on it. And they say when you've lost Jon Stewart, you've lost the country, and it looks like Obama may have lost Jon Stewart.
It may be a bit concerning that the president was not kept in the loop about the program that is named after him, but in his defense, there appear to be very few loops he is in.
For the first time, the government reveals that it monitored some 35 world leaders, including German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Perhaps more shocking is that President Obama was kept in the dark about it for 5 years.
5 years? What? So for 5 years, I assume the president is being presented with the findings from this world leader monitoring. And in those 5 years, it never occurred to him to say, how are we getting this? Does the president believe in surveillance fairies?
All right, so he didn't know about this NSA thing, whether you think Benghazi's a scandal or not, he didn't really know about that, or the IRS. But what's really getting him is all the quotes that they have of him talking about Obamacare. Remember, if you like your plan, you can keep it, period.
You can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it. If you like the plan you have, you can keep it. If you like your plan and you like your doctor, you won't have to do a thing. You keep your plan.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan.
If you've got health insurance, you can keep it.
If you like your health care plan, you will keep your plan. If you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan.
If you have insurance that you like, then you will be able to keep that insurance. If you like your doctor or health care plan, you can keep it.
If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
All right, so New York Magazine put that compilation together, and it actually goes further than that, but this is YouTube, so we got time constraints. Okay, so let's start with this. First off, just from watching that little clip right there before we get to the Jon Stewart stuff, do you think politicians all hate YouTube and hate the internet? Because we can now track the lies. Even 10 years ago, you couldn't track the lies.
Yeah, I think reporters were still tracking the lies.
But everyone can get it at a click now.
Any troll can do it, but I definitely think that this is something that would have been caught regardless. And I guess the big question is this actually a lie, or is this something where he was trying to sell the country an idea that in his mind was fully formed that he then had to pass in the Congress in order to, implement it. And so he was selling an idea that was one idea, and then, as we all knew, the law was changed piecemeal by piecemeal in order to get it to pass.
Right. So do you think he possibly didn't know that he was going to end up lying? Because everyone's saying they changed so much.
I think that the whole story is a mislead, because there's a cherry picking of anecdotal evidence that shows some people have had to give up plans.
Right.
Yes. That's a tiny percentage, 5% of the people who are previously insured, who are now having to give up their insurance. And those 5 are having to give up their insurance because their insurance was inadequate. It just doesn't meet the requirements of the mandate. And many of those will be up for governmental help for paying for the new insurance.
Right, supposedly they'll get better insurance. Even though that's not what he said, it seems like a good...
But at the same time, some of them are arguing that they will get better insurance, yes, but their premiums are going to go up. So
right, that's where there's a subsidy that can come in to help cover that premium going up.
Perhaps.
So what we're really dealing with is not a question of whether he lied, but whether he underestimated how low people would go in their insurance before they were dissatisfied with it. He was thinking, well, clearly people who have really crappy insurance don't like their insurance.
Right.
So if you have insurance you like, you're going to be able to keep it. And people went, no, I really liked my crappy insurance.
Right.
Which he just didn't anticipate.
But was he thinking that, or was he doing what you're saying, which I tend to think is probably a little closer to truth, which is he just had to sell it. So he had to keep repeating that because he had to sell it, and then once it's through, then all the nuance of the little details that you're describing come to light, but he had to sell it, so he had to keep saying it.
I mean, it's one thing to call somebody out on a lie about something that hasn't happened yet. That's a failed promise more than it is, I think, a bold-faced lie.
All right, I think that's
it's
fair.
one thing to lie and, who knows what's going on with the NSA tapes, right? With all of this evidence. We don't know what Obama was privy to and what he wasn't, and we don't know how much of that truth he's actually hiding. But I think preemptively to say, in the future, things will be this way, is that really lying?
Right,
Or is
it's
that
not quite. It's a
overpromising?
pre-lie or
It's a pre-lie,
something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it is really just an overpromise, and I still think it's not even an overpromise. He just didn't realize that there would be people who went, no, I like crappy insurance.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't occur to me.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's get to what we started with, which is the Jon Stewart stuff, because I do think it's interesting that Jon, who really basically is the most trusted man in media, is sort of turning against Obama, and it has more to do with the NSA stuff, I think. And I've been talking about this for weeks on here. It seems to me that they purposely don't tell Obama things, that they don't tell him that the website for Obamacare wasn't quite going to work. It's now come out. He didn't know.
Well,
and he didn't know that the NSA was spying. Like, that
This
they're
is
purposely
a popular
not telling.
tactic, I think, in large corporations where the CEO ultimately, holds the responsibility for decisions that are made. So, the board may make a decision, or people underneath him may make a decision and intentionally not disclose it to him so that he can't then later be held responsible for
Is
it.
that a decent way for government
This
to
territory
operate?
was pioneered by the darling of the right, Ronald Reagan. It is under his administration that we were introduced to the expression plausible deniability.
I
It's
have that written right here.
It's a deliberate thing, and I think it's very dangerous. It's, the buck stops here, so please don't show me the buck. If it comes near me, I have to stop it, so please keep the buck in the waiting room.
Yeah.
I would like an antechamber full of bucks, please.
But at what point is that deniability really plausible?
Yes,
As you were
exactly.
saying, you see the results from the wiretap. How do you not know that they came from a wiretap?
Right.
That's
And also,
insane.
it's funny you bring up the plausible deniability, because I do have it written here, but I have it written not because of Reagan, and I'm glad you brought that up. I have it written because of the movie Independence Day. Because remember when Bill Pullman, the president, finds out about the aliens and he says, well, why didn't I know about this? And they go, plausible deniability. So that's where I get my information from. Yours is probably...
I understand. Ronald Reagan really took plausible deniability to a whole new level, because during his second term as president, he didn't know he was president.
Right.
So,
at least the second half of the second
Low.
term.
so the level of plausible deniability there is really extraordinary.
Yeah. Okay, so if the system is built so that they purposely don't tell him things, and then that way he's not quite lying, then who's really in charge here? Like, is this Illuminati stuff?
Well,
What are we really talking about? Is the NSA really in charge, and or is the FBI? Like, who?
Well, I mean, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, we know that big money is really in charge. But fundamentally, I mean, there's a reason that we have a division of power in this country, right? There's a reason that we have the 3 different branches of government so that they can impose checks and balances on one another. The hope is that the executor isn't ultimately in charge, because that would be too much power for one leader in a democracy. But at the same time, when it comes to the NSA scenario, I think that things are getting really, really out of hand. We even saw that Dianne Feinstein now is saying that, like, she disapproves of wiretapping of all of our allies in diplomatic arenas. Well, she was on the Intelligence Committee. I mean, she was one of the people who ordered these things.
Yeah, okay, so let's wrap up with this then, because I think it's a great point. This idea that every time something gets leaked by Snowden, everyone pretends they're outraged, except we all feel like we knew that this stuff was going on. So how does Dianne Feinstein sit there in front of the committee and pretend? She either pretends she doesn't know, or now we're not going to do it anymore.
We have been doing that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We have never done such a thing. We will never do such a thing, and we've stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
And we won't ever again.
But fundamentally, I think the issue is that this is it's a political move. It's not a move about keeping Americans safe. As long as we knew that our own phones could be wiretapped, nobody seemed to have a problem with it on the NSA or on the Intelligence Committee in Congress. But as soon as diplomacy was at stake,
right?
As soon as this was detrimental to any sort of political agenda, all of a sudden, this is something that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, but aren't we doing it to our allies, and our allies doing it to us? Like, isn't this just standard spy versus spy, like Psych 101?
I think that's true, but I also think that we have capabilities that are far beyond a fair amount of other nations, and so in some ways we have the upper hand there.
I think we like to keep sense that we are far more technologically advanced than we are. Just for the sake of keeping the populace intimidated a little bit. And I think there is a lot of stuff going on between the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, and of course B613, where secrets are being kept from each other for the sake of proprietary information gathering and data sourcing, that is so dangerous and so ugly and so nefarious that, to some degree at least, even the Intelligence Committee is shocked every time they realize that they are not being told everything. Because we have 3 branches of government and then a whole bunch of super secret organizations.
True.
And I think it's ugly, and I think we should all stop pretending that what we live in is a land of freedom and free expression.
I think that's an excellent
You just
point.
gave me the perfect out for a segment, so there you go. Hey guys, the Rubin Report's brought to you by Coupaw.com. They have up to 75% off pet treats, chews, toys, and more. And if you use code RR, you can get another 20%. That's a lot of percentage right there. I can't do that kind of math. The link is right down below, Coupaw.com, code RR.